Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. I told you it'd be a fast-paced show today. We've got Friday with our legal man, Jay St. Clair, coming up next hour. Normally, that would be here. Sean Farash will be with us in the 6 o'clock hour. He's a great guy, funny guy. We just had Ben Rose on talking about these presidential pardons and the oddity that, regardless of the debate as to whether the pardons should have happened or not, set that aside, the oddity that Cassida and Cothran were pardoned, but Robin Smith, who did the right thing and admitted guilt and testified, did not. So we'll try to figure out where that is coming up a little bit later on in the show. But right now, we focus our attention on Davidson County and all things Nashville with our next guest. He is Mayor Freddie O'Connell. He joins us from time to time to update us on the state of the city through his lens in the mayor's office, and it's always good to have him in studio. Freddie, good afternoon.
Matt, thanks for having us. Happy Friday.
Good Friday to you. I'm assuming that you're all in on Vanderbilt tomorrow, right?
I am definitely
just
all in
talking
on
about
Vanderbilt tomorrow. Yeah, anchor down.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. So let's. I know we've got a limited amount of time. I know you got to get out of here at 4:30. So I got to rapid fire you. First off, kudos to the crime numbers.
We are moving in the right direction. Right?
Yeah.
We don't, even on progress, we don't settle for, hey, this is good enough. We're still making progress, but the trajectory we're on, where crime is down in all categories, where we are, on this pace, we will hit a 60-year low in homicide rate, 40% low in overall violent crime. That's exactly the kind of stuff we want to see. You're probably aware we just opened our 9th precinct in the city with MMPD out in southeast Nashville. Quickly growing area has demanded more presence for most of the time that I was on the Metro Council, and Taneka Vircher was there, who was a longtime champion on Metro Council. She saw me today and she said, I asked you for one thing, you did it. You don't owe me anything else, right? And so it was really good to be out there with MMPD. We've sworn in 250 new officers since I took office, just had another couple dozen out at the academy this week. So we're making a lot of headway.
How short are we?
It just sort of depends on what that means. We closed the vacancy rate to double digits just before this budget, but then we expanded the sworn officer headcount by another 60 or so officers as we came into this year. So it was sort of like we were making headway up against that old target, approaching full staffing, and then kind of moved our own goalposts because Chief Drake was correct. We needed more officers because we had a new precinct. We had more school resource officers to cover. We have a transit security division we're working on. So we have a lot of initiatives out there, a new citywide flex unit. So we had to increase that headcount, and so now you have to run some more classes through the academy to get out there.
For those parents in Davidson County sending their kids to the Metro Nashville public school system, several years ago we were told that, while there was a desire to bring SROs into all school systems, to all the schools, middle school, elementary schools, that there just weren't the officers to be able to accomplish that. Are we there yet?
We're very close. This budget allows us to expand that. There's 3 different things happening. Some of it is kind of that technology expansion that we've seen. That very glad to see the collaboration between Chief Drake and the Metro Nashville Police Department and Dr. Battle, Director of Schools. They agreed that having sort of new technology detection systems is good. We've rolled out Evolve, which if you've gone to a Preds game, a Nashville SC game, you're going to know what those systems are. That's been effective already this academic year. We are expanding school resource officers. We also have this program of safety ambassadors, people who are on school around campus that are really there for de-escalation scenarios and may not be there to cause an arrest, but may actually be there to prevent anything that could arise to that occasion.
So, and you touched on it in your original answer that, while the progress that we're pointed in the right direction, obviously 2024, I saw some of the statistics, and I think Nashville's 13th nationally, FBI statistics. That's too high. I know that you're not comfortable with that. No one's comfortable with that. We go in the right direction. If you had the opportunity to engage with the state in any sort of collaborative way in, a similar fashion to the way that the Memphis folks are doing, that seems to be wildly successful in Memphis. I'm not comparing the two cities. I think it would be unfair to Nashville to do so, because I don't think Nashville is anywhere approaching what Memphis is having to deal with in terms of their crime levels. However, if you had that opportunity, is that something that you would do?
So I'll say it this way. I definitely look to, in the same way that I was looking to make sure that we had alignment between Chief Drake and Dr. Battle on the approach we took to safety in schools. We look at that from a partnership level all the time. I mean, Chief Drake will tell you, we use state and federal partnerships all the time. You probably saw the U.S. Attorney announcement yesterday, big MS-13 bust. I mean, MNPD is working with state and federal partners regularly to go after the worst of the worst guys, and those frequently result in not just effective arrests, but effective prosecutions on the basis of effective investigations. We have not had Chief Drake approach us and say, we need something else that is not available locally. So we are continuing to work with them. We've actually been able to optimize resources. I mean, between improvements we've made at the Department of Emergency Communications, some alternative policing approaches that allow when somebody is experiencing a mental health crisis, somebody to go there, and so officers can stay focused on crime, not crisis. We've improved response times by 10 minutes over the past year. And so, again, we're moving in the right direction. If the state approached us and said, hey, here's this opportunity, if Chief Drake said this looks, like something we might be interested in, we would consider it. But I think right now, I'll say it this way. As we engage with state on executive branch, legislative branch, they saw a real problem in Memphis. They have not come to us and said, we see a real problem in Nashville.
Mayor Freddie O'Connell is our guest. And by the way, I've mentioned on several occasions, and I want to tell you publicly, I appreciate your willingness to sit down with me and talk about the issues that matter to Davidson County and Nashville off air. We had a good, 3-hour conversation off air last time we talked. And I do appreciate that. And I think it's the definition of two people who can enjoy a beer together, sit down, hash things out, agree on some things, disagree on other things, and still remain friendly and focused on moving the city in the proper direction. All that to say, let's talk about property taxes, right? So you campaigned on making the city more affordable. Your first 2 years in office, I hear you talk a lot about making the city more affordable. I can give you a laundry list of people that tell me that in the first 2 years, we have not accomplished that goal, and the city is not more affordable, particularly when it comes to taxation. What do you say to the people that write me regularly? I'm sure that they write you. I'm sure that they contact you and tell you, you have charged me out of the city. I can't afford to be in the city anymore. I know that you think about that. What do you say to them?
We do think about that a lot. It's totally dependent on your context. If you are a small business paying a commercial tax rate, if you are a residential property owner who is owner occupied in your residence, this is the hard part about it. And it's the hardest part, I think, to understand about how we operate cities from the standpoint of knowing what it costs to have a great police department full of professionals, to have a school system where we're seeing unprecedented student performance, right? We have a certain level of service expectation. We try to know where that line is at all times to understand what Nashvillians want. The reality is today, if you are paying higher property taxes, it is because your value of your property sharply increased. And so that's one of the hardest parts. If you have been in your home for decades, the state does not give us the opportunity to say, you've been in your home a long time here, like you get to freeze your property taxes. Now, what it does let us do is if you are of a certain age and on a fixed income, if you're a disabled veteran, we do have some tools for relief there. But, our neighborhood, for instance, spiked in value 5 years ago. And so we saw my property taxes went up noticeably back then, 4 years ago, before I was ever mayor. This year, it's pretty flat. And so we knew that our value had kind of increased previously. There are other parts of the city.
Is that a bad look when the mayor's property tax hasn't gone up and many city residents' property taxes are going up? It feels like exponential.
I'd say it's a neutral look. It's to say that values change at different rates in different part of the city. And that's the, there's this unusual interplay between having an independently elected property assessor. Her office goes out and does the job of assigning values, and we look at it and completely independently of that say, here is the total expected revenue needs for the city based on, what we hear from departments, what we hear from community members, what we hear from Metro Council. And so we have systematically been moving Metro's property tax rate down. We currently have the lowest property tax rate in the history of Metro.
Yet the people in Davidson County are paying higher property taxes than any other county in the state of Tennessee. I mean, that is a fact.
I mean, are you talking about
and dollar for dollar? I mean, I understand how you play with the numbers and the rates, right? But dollar for dollar, people's taxes went up. I'm paying more this year than I paid last year. I don't care what the rate is.
Yeah, but 4 years ago, you may not have. This year, you may because your property went up. I don't know what it means to say Nashvillians are paying higher property taxes than anywhere else in the state.
Well, because they are. I mean, it is what it is.
Are you saying
they're
on an average basis?
They're cutting a check annually for more money than any other county in the state of Tennessee.
I would be interested to see your math on that.
Well, and I'm happy to show it. So we had the transit tax, which passed, vote of the people. We had the property taxes. Now I hear from a Metro councilor, and I'm curious your thoughts. And obviously, you don't speak for the Metro Council. They don't speak for you. You are mayor. But we hear from a Metro councilor that are now talking about impact fees. Can you help us understand what impact fees are and what your position is on them?
Yeah, I mean, I know this from being on the Metro Council, too. Metro Council members run non-binding resolutions all the time, which may be somebody's free idea that they just put out there. It isn't going to have... that's not actually an ordinance. That doesn't have an impact. That's basically requesting that the state General Assembly offer us the opportunity to look at impact fees.
I heard that one of the members of leadership in the House is willing to run it. That's what I heard.
I would be interested in that. I mean, some counties have them. You've maybe heard already of the County Powers Act. It offers some counties. And there are two schools of thought on this. One of this is impact fees give more predictability. The other is having flexibility lets you have more context-appropriate discussions about infrastructure. We're kind of stuck in this space of we can't offer predictability because we don't have impact fees available. And when we have these scenarios where you're doing a big development and we say, hey, would you mind covering sidewalks? We've had some people engage in litigation about that. So we're kind of getting pinched on, again, that idea of our growth covering our full costs. It's not right now. I would be very interested to see if the state legislature did file something, we'd want to make sure it made sense in Nashville. I haven't seen any draft legislation or anything.
I feel like when we have these good conversations, it's like a city council meeting. We have old business and new business, and so I want to go over some old business with you, Freddie.
The old business part of the agenda.
You could probably guess what some of the old business items are. LPRs. Any movement on that?
No active movement on that. We know there's still interest. We know that some there. Again, this is a place where there are two factions in the Metro Council. We have seen some council members express strong support. We have seen some express strong opposition. Neither coalition seems to be moving the other right now. We have a framework ready to go. We are continuing to talk with council members and community members with differing perspectives here. I know this is still a priority of Chief Drake, and we are looking for an opportunity to find the right balance here of, is there a pathway to keeping concerns low in a community that is seeing trust pressures that you and I have talked about this sudden and unexpected emergence of ICE and the impact on the community there from a safety standpoint, and then knowing that we've had this be a departmental priority, that we continue to talk to counties around Nashville about this. So we're looking for that opportunity to make this a successful project for Nashville.
So for those that maybe haven't kept up with the storyline, the council passed an approval for LPRs. There was a test study that went down. They passed overall approval, but we're waiting on contracts to be presented before the council. But that's your office that would present them. But it's your position that correct me if I'm wrong, that if you presented the contracts now, it would not get approved.
And you saw probably, you again, on an old business basis, you'll probably remember about this time last year, in fact, at the council meeting right after the election, we thought we had a pathway to get approval for FUSIS and came up one vote short. And I don't think the atmosphere in the chamber has changed much since then.
You and I spoke during that beer summit, if you will, about affordable housing in Nashville. And the tax issue is one conversation to have about affordability regarding that. But then there's another conversation to have about, how you push affordable housing within the city. And, I'm loath to get the government involved in some of those free markets. But, obviously you have involvement. And I don't pretend to understand exactly what was going down in the nations, but it felt like there was a push to get more high-density residential property in a community that didn't really want more high-density residential property. Am I reading this right?
Well, I'd say there's two pieces of what you just said that it gets a little more complicated. Anytime you create, I mean, I guess I'd say it this way. Anytime you change somebody's entitlements, right, the things that you're allowed to do by right with land that you own, it's not like any zoning bill that ever passes the Metro Council suddenly causes demolition or new construction, right? And so what happened is on more parcels than you usually see, not attached to any specific development in the nations, the district council member out there did, and I would say it's not clear to me just from the people that I've talked to, because I was out there at Light the Nations, a great community festival that they do out there annually. And I heard from people, neighborhood leaders that were like, we think the council member did a good job of engagement. We're supportive of this. And of course, I heard from some other people who said, this isn't right for this neighborhood. But the end of the day is, it's not like somebody's going through the nations next week with bulldozers and whatever else. It doesn't change the character of it today, tomorrow, next week, next month. Maybe by next year you would see a property that had, instead of a single family home on it, something different. But I worked through this when I was on Metro Council for 8 years, and my colleague Colby Sledge in District 17 did something very similar for kind of Chestnut Hill and Wedgwood, Houston. And I think a lot of it has to do with how far out ahead do you get of community support? Can you bring people with you? Do you run it on a pace that people are comfortable with or that you're comfortable with? And clearly you've seen some blowback from that in the nations. But I mean, we track that stuff, but that's also council member by council member. I think it's up to each of them to exercise their judgment over where their respective communities are and if they're getting the policies right to fit them. But, I'll just say zoning stirs up a lot of passions. Zoning itself is not a redevelopment proposal.
Well, then what is the proposal? What is the mayor's office position on how to bring more affordability to Nashville?
We're anchored around the unified housing strategy, which is mostly a mix of approaches. I mean, with housing, generally speaking, you've got sort of three big levers you can pull to try to get to affordability in that space. You've got supply, meaning do you have land, funding, all those things to get there. You have subsidy, which may mean if the market isn't going to, generally speaking, offer very low income housing for people with very low incomes, you may need to subsidize some of it to create long-term affordability. And then there's the support element, which means it isn't just the cost of construction. It may mean if you're trying to maintain mixed income communities where people of all different ages, incomes, and abilities might be able to live in the same neighborhood together, that all three of those elements may come into play. From our standpoint, and I say this from fully seeing this play out for 8 years, mayor's offices have historically almost never gotten involved in zoning. We're not trying to engage in a land use conversation. We do think that is appropriately the position of the Metro Council, but we are looking at every place we can follow through on the unified housing strategy on those other metrics. And so in year one, we do have some rehabilitation funding in there to try to help people stay in their homes. We just made an announcement this week with a new initiative that connects people who are going through environmental court who may have property standards violations on their properties to get referred to Rebuilding Together Nashville so they can resolve those property standards issues and not get cited or be at increased risk of losing their property or being displaced from their home. Those kinds of initiatives are very important. We have the Barnes Housing Trust Fund, which we have funded yet another year of $17 million. We have a Catalyst Fund out there, and we're trying to accelerate delivery of very low-income housing through initiatives like permanent supportive housing. So that's our approach.
So you mentioned Colby Sledge in District 17, Wedgwood, Houston, and that's obviously, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Offer still on the table. This is on the category of old business as well. Everything that I'm hearing in the rumor mill is that John Ingram has $2 million that he's willing to spend on affordable housing, and he's holding that money up to make sure that the Bristol Motor Speedway deal doesn't go through. Have you heard that rumor? If so, is there any truth to the rumor?
I've heard the rumor. I've not had that conversation with John. So,
have you had any conversation with John?
I've had multiple conversations with John. It is clear he remains very skeptical of, any increased use of the Speedway, including NASCAR.
And he was at one time publicly in favor of the Speedway remaining on the property.
At least publicly tolerant, but I don't know if that's the same as in favor. But yeah.
And where are we? It felt like we had a community meeting. I went to the meeting. It was at Geodis Park. I heard the arguments. And since then, it doesn't feel like we've made any progress forward with the deal with Bristol.
Yeah, we're continuing to have conversations. We continue to talk to the team. We continue to talk to Bristol. We're very likely to start to engage the community, particularly around the fairgrounds at some point in the near future, because this is something I don't want to leave lingering. The longer we go with no certainty around that, the more at risk we put the facilities.
Are you going to have to punt it back to the Fair Board before it gets to the council? Because I think the Fair Board a couple of years ago approved it, right?
I think that if we brought terms of a different deal, we would have to go back. My suspicion is on process. If we got to something we thought we could take to Metro Council before we got there, we're probably going to have to go to all of the Fair Board, the Planning Commission, and the Sports Authority.
Mayor Freddie O'Connell's with us. We've got, and pardon me, Ken, I know we're running long and I'm screwing your schedule up. Ken just gave me the wave.
Don't mess up your advertising.
No, we're all good. We're good on that front. This is a compelling and good conversation to have regarding all of these things, all of these aspects of the city. What are you happiest about in your first 2 years?
Happiest that we've seen a full year of progress with Choose How You Move, that we have expanded transit service, that we've got sidewalks in design, and I think we'll have some in construction before the end of the year, that we've got 100 new traffic signals now funded, and they will begin construction in the very near future, too. They're going to be fully upgraded. You're going to see some improvements over the next few months on Lebanon Pike with new signals. We've got we just celebrated a new transit enhancement out on Murfreesboro Pike. We've got people in this period of tough moment where Nashville is not unique in responding to people losing SNAP benefits all of a sudden, that we've got a new low-income fare program that is helping people get access to food. So I think that overall program of Choose How You Move that was voter supported and voter approved is out there in the world working. I think that's in some ways the biggest deal. Otherwise, in a growing city, Matt, we talked about it at the top of the show. It's very important that as the city continues to grow, we are moving both our public safety numbers in the right direction, that we are making the city safer every day. And that is not just the goal, but we've invested in that. And that also we are seeing historic improvements in schools, from historically high graduation rates to 4 years of consecutive growth at the highest level of state, and students performing better than they ever have on state-based metrics. And so,
what are you most disappointed about?
I think the hardest parts of this are those elements where it's variables kind of above our pay grade, where we think we're in a good position on one thing on a state level, and then maybe something gets disrupted on that basis. Or just right now, it is very challenging to have our staff had to kind of scramble the jets with Metro partners, others, to deal with the SNAP crisis, to make sure people just can put food on the table. It's
a smaller issue because I think it will impact fewer people in Nashville. But the issue of the tunnel, the Music City Loop, the Elon thing, it felt like it got political for no reason. And at least I felt that way. And then out of your office, and look, I'm just telling you the perception. You said you had not talked to anybody, but then we find out that people in your office had talked to people, and it felt like you were kind of playing funny with the language because your office talked too boring, didn't they?
We got invited to a meeting at the state, and Boring was there, and a year went by, and we talk to people all the time, but at the end of the day, it's not like they came in and made a big proposal to our office. And then,
is this not a thing that the city could work with them?
We are working with them.
So you feel comfortable working with them as long as I know that you're concerned about environmental checkpoints and all these types of things. Obviously, you should be.
We have our Office of Emergency Management and our Director of Performance Management are working side by side to make sure that if this project goes forward, like any project in the city goes forward, that life safety issues and operational continuity are squared away. And so they've approached us to talk to metro departments. We are making sure that happens, and to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any issues working with them.
Absent, you mentioned SNAP benefits regarding the government shutdown, and hopefully that will be taken care of sooner rather than later. But absent that, and that's a big piece, and I know the governor's working on that, you're working on that. Probably the biggest impact that the average folks are feeling if they're not military or work for the government is the airport. Are you talking to folks out at the airport to make sure that there's some good continuity going on there? It feels like we have less of an impact than some major cities.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Krulin talks with me and talks with our team on a regular basis. But even before this moment in the shutdown, there were some already existing issues on federal touch points with the airport that he briefed us on. This certainly amplifies those. I mean, I would definitely encourage anybody who is traveling this weekend or throughout the period of the shutdown, and I, like you, hope this gets resolved sooner rather than later, but definitely make sure that either with your airline or checking out flynashville.com that you're in touch with any delays that are there.
All right, I promise to get you out of here, but before you go, I mean, look, Mayor, I've watched 911 Nashville. This city's going to hell in a handbasket. I mean,
Matt, I do have
Lord
to
have
remind
mercy.
you and your listeners that this is not a documentary. This is a fictional accounting. Here's what's neat about it, though. This was so we had some of our folks from NFD in our Office of Emergency Management.
Why are you letting strippers be firefighters, Mayor? We see it on television.
You saw that. That is not a policy of the Nashville Fire Department that, family members who maybe were unknown to other family members immediately come in. We do encourage people to go all the way through the formal training process. But they do regularly ask, the people on the show do regularly ask our first responders, how would you handle this if this happened in real life? And so that's kind of an interesting dimension to it.
Are you watching the show?
I am. Our family is enjoying it together.
I try to give it a go. I love my new city. I love it. I don't know that I love the show, but.
I think what we are going to codename you whenever we get invited back, if we get invited back after this, is Smoke Show.
Smoke Show, whatever. You don't call me Smoke Show. I won't call you Feckless Freddy, and we'll call it a day.
I think we can shake hands on that.
We can agree on that. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for answering the tough questions. I appreciate you.
Glad to be here. Thanks,
There's
Matt.
Mayor Freddie O'Connell, 33 after the hour, very late on Super Talk.